Yo, what's happening, y'all? This is B Jizzle of the Pull Up Basketball Podcast. Welcome to the #1 LA Clipper podcast out there. We want to first give you guys a shout out, LA Clipper fan, LA Clipper Nations, for being here. Before we get started, make sure you guys, if you guys have not already, hit that like button, hit the share, hit the subscribe, and as well, if you guys have not already, share this podcast with your family and friends. They will not be disappointed, but let's get it popping. On a daily and game basis. You guys do not want to miss out on that. But that doesn't stop there. We also have 2 game live actions. You guys have the ability to watch some of these great players warm up before the game starts. You know what I mean? You guys do not want to miss how these players are able to dominate on the court on a game and game in out basis. Do not miss that opportunity. And then we also have in-game live action shots and coverage such as the intros. And you guys have the ability to watch some of the players up close, be able to see what it's like to be courtside and what the fan interactions are like, the passion, the shots made, the crossovers, the defense, everything, all in one. You guys will enjoy.
Freeze, that's cold.
What's good, everybody? Welcome to the Pull Up Show. I'm your host, Mr. BJ Matthews, aka B Jizzle. Before we get started, follow us on the YouTube page, the Pull Up Basketball Podcast. Like, share, subscribe. All of our YouTube videos. Hit that like button. Y'all come in here. Hit the share, subscribe. Hit that CASHAPP, $ BJ Matthews, $ BJ Matthews for all this great content. If y'all want to show your love to the Pull Up Basketball Podcast, y'all can hit that donation button right below where it says CASHAPP. And also, if you guys want to also get your super stickers and super comments that are available, go and hit that button right below the video. It says thanks. You guys can hit that button. You guys can drop a comment into the chat box. You guys can send your love in there as well. And last but not least, get your membership badges that are available. 3 different options. We got the pull-up badge, we got the LA Clipper badge, and the interview badge. If you want more information about that, go into our YouTube page and you guys can hit up that information. But last but not least, if you guys are in here, hit that like button, and also in the comment section, if you guys are in here, make sure y'all let me know. I'll be able to shout y'all out throughout the show. But We are back, y'all, with the spring and summer interviews with the LA Clippers now officially regular season and postseason officially done. We are not done making content. Like I told y'all before, we're going to be continuously bringing in NBA playoff content as well as other content throughout the league. LA Clipper podcast and the nation. Make sure I'm going to continuously bring y'all more interviews throughout this summer. So this is going to be our first interview back and back in swing of things. We have a very special guest, somebody who is part of LA Clipper organization. And he is one of the guys for a good department into the LA Clippers. He is their head chaplain. I keep saying their head. He is their co-chaplain. He corrected me earlier for the Los Angeles Clippers. See him from game to game at home games. Got a chance to really, get a chance to connect with him. But I want y'all to really welcome in our first guest of the spring and summer, Mr. Larry Matthew Williams. Welcome to the show, bro. Let me go and put you on the screen. How you doing, man?
Man, I'm good. I love the intro. It's fine.
Yes, sir. How's everything going with you, man?
Man, blessed. Can't complain. It's all about being consistent. So as long as I stay consistent, things go good.
Right on. So let me first holler out some of the people in the comments. My man Thomas Talents said Real Clipper Podcast. Haters big mad. DFJ Hoops, get a hammer and smash that like button as y'all come here. Make sure y'all smash the like button for this interview. It's going to be a great one. Salute to my man OC Love. Salute BJ and the Pull Up Basketball Podcast and everyone else in the chat. All right, as y'all come here, make sure you guys continuously let me know in the comment section that y'all are here. But Mr. Williams, let's first get into what you do as far as your background, as far as, where you grew up at and where you're from, and how did you even get into this position? Because I know a lot of people have the word chaplain. Some of people do not know what that means, so we're going to get into that later. But tell me a little bit about yourself and, your background.
Well, I'm originally from Oakland. I came out here, though, when I was like 2. So I grew up out here until I was around 10, 11, and I moved back to Oakland. My mom kind of, went through some things. She got on drugs and went to jail. My dad, had a new family, so I didn't want to live with him. And so I kind of, moved around a lot. I went to 4 different high schools and lived with like 6 different family members during that time. So I learned how to adapt, and I was really good at football. I was talented. I didn't have the work ethic, but I was talented. And but nobody came to see me, so I had some issues. Well, my mom and dad didn't come to see me. People came to see me, but not them two, and that's what I was looking for. So moving back to LA, right after football season, my senior year, I moved back out here, ended up going to Fairfax High. And, that coming back to LA was different because when I left the gang life, I was young. So I wasn't really, really understanding the whole gang life. And,
right.
You know what I mean? So coming out here and going through that, moving back with moms was cool. But once I graduated, I was still trying to pursue football. Things didn't go my way. Me and my mom kind of had another falling out. She got back on drugs, and then, I went to what my homies was doing. The people I grew up with when I was young, I kind of got back in touch with them. So I started gang banging after high school and did a lot of different things, trying to make a rep. You know what I mean? And after you make a rep, then you got to live up to that rep. And so that was exhausting, having to live up to something that really wasn't me. And so, going through that, doing robberies, shootouts, selling drugs, just wilding out. I think about 94 is when I had my first son, and that's what really slowed me down. I was like, okay, I can't do this no more. So I, long story short, man, got married to my wife, who I've been married to for 23 years. Started trying to get my life together, but still was playing both sides. You know what I mean? Trying to go to church, but still trying to hang with the homies, and I was conflicted. You know what I mean? I didn't really have an identity, so I can adapt to whoever, right? Because I moved around a lot, so I learned how to adapt, but didn't really have an identity. So once I really started to surrender and change my life, that's when I started to figure out my identity in Christ and really started to, that's when I came up with the brand. That's when I really I became a pastor in 2020 during the pandemic. So. You know what I mean? So that's kind of a short version of my story. I don't want to go too deep, but that's a short version of my story, man. And it's crazy because when I was going through all that, I was like, man, God can't love me. You know what I mean? I feel like I couldn't, because of all the bad things I did, not realizing that's why I can relate to a lot of men now. That's why I can relate to a lot of youth now, because I literally come from what they came from. So, but when you don't have that spiritual and that mental mindset to know, you kind of think, I can never be, great. I can never be, more than what I am. But no, you can't. So, learning that, man, was really helped change my life and change my perspective on the outlook of who you can be.
Right. And like I say, man, I know, before I even let people even come in all my interviews, I always make sure I let them get off, some background, what I'm saying, about themselves. Because I want to bring somebody in and the audience don't even know what we getting at it. So I definitely, that's a handful you said, but I was really I didn't even know some of the stuff you said, even with your background, but that's definitely refreshing and, definitely something I think a lot of people in the chat will love to hear. But all the people in here, like I said, I'm saying, tap that like button. Got my lady in there, Jasmine. Appreciate you coming in, sweetheart. And big fan, Breezy, Brooklyn Nets fan. Appreciate you hitting that like button. But let's get into a little bit of I think a lot of people want to talk about with the Clippers, man. You being the head chaplain or co-chaplain of the team. I gotta keep responding to that.
That's all good.
Because you got me right this morning about that. But before we get into your daily, routine of what it is to be a chaplain, kind of break down what a chaplain actually is. Like, what do they actually do for the team, and what's your position and how you interact with the players of that nature.
Electric for short trips.
Well, before I
gas for long.
Even go into that, I don't know. You good?
Yeah. Go ahead. My bad. I'm just pulling.
Before I even go into that, just to give you guys a quick how I became coach chaplain. My mom actually passed away last year, January 2023. Of course, I wanted my mom not, to live, and I felt like God could do it, but I also knew that, it might not happen. So she passes away, literally, when she passed, and I want to say this in the right way. Of course, I was sad, but I had some joy because I knew God was doing something. Like, you can't just take her and nothing good gonna happen. And so I felt like there was something good gonna happen. I didn't know what it was. And my pastor, Julian, who I hadn't talked to in over 2.5 years, who is actually the lead chaplain of the Clippers, he sends me a message like 6 days later after she passes and like, hey man, can we talk? And literally that's how I ended up becoming the chaplain, youth pastor at Oasis Church, and all that within 7 months of my mom passing. So I just had to share that because like it don't make sense. And when it don't make sense, I know it's God. So I gotta give him the glory on that. So, but as far as the day-to-day when it comes to being a chaplain, first of all, the chaplain only speaks for home games. So every team has a chaplain. So we get, 41 home games, and then you get playoffs as well. But for me, man, I have different things that I already have written down to kind of speak on. But before I do them, I kind of pray like, okay, what does the team need? So that day I might be going, or even the day before I'm going, I kind of pray on which one I should do. And sometimes it's none of those, and I got to create a whole new one. But a lot of times it's the one of, it might be 3 that I'm choosing from. So I pick one of those 3, and then I go and I speak, and you get about 15 minutes to speak with the team. And I tell you, the first time I did it was so nerve-wracking, but as the year went on, man, it was a blessing. But I think the main thing is building a relationship and being consistent. So for me, I think every pastor has a message. For me, my message is all about the process, like the process of you becoming better. So how do you become better? And I feel like that's what I teach on. So it's character, it's identity, it's faith. Faith is really we always talk about faith, but faith is confident. So how can you be confident in what you believe in? So, that's kind of what I speak on, and it's been amazing, man.
Right. So kind of intertwining into, that you kind of give your descriptions basically with the chaplain. They're the person who's part of the team as far as the spiritual part, right? You spiritually feed the players on the team. Do you also do the same thing to the coaches as well, or just primarily?
So I met Coach Wesley Johnson 2 years before I became chaplain. I'm not sure I think he was on the Clippers then too. I'm not sure if he was, but he's one of the I guess like a trainer coach, assistant. So I connected with him, 2 years prior. But he's the only coach that I'm connected to at this point. Not too many coaches come in. And even when they do, I feel like you got to build that consistency with them before you really start to, connect with them on that level. So I can't even think of, I'm not saying none of the coaches came in, but I can't think of any of the coaches that have come in.
Right.
Besides Wes.
That's all good. As y'all smash the like button, make sure y'all come in here, hit the like button, man. We got the LA Clippers chaplain, Larry M. Williams, with a good interview tonight. This is the first interview of the summer. Got a lot more interviews coming for y'all, man, with players and coaches. But we are going to decide, do this right with the spiritual part. So let's talk about a little bit your personal interaction. So, we talked on the phone a little bit about some of the players you deal with. Kind of give me a little bit, some of the guys you kind of really deal with at this moment this season, some of your interactions that you've had that, been stuck in your mind. Give us a few stories.
First of all, Westbrook, I gotta talk about him first. Westbrook, man, my first time going to speak, I didn't know what to expect. I was just told, man, you got 15 minutes, give a message. And I went there and I had a guest badge at the time, so it didn't have my name on it or anything. And I go in there and Westbrook sits in the front. And I don't know if anybody's ever met Westbrook or been in a meeting with Westbrook, but when he's in there, he don't blink and he stares at you with this intense stare. And I was like, it was almost like he was looking through me. And I was super nervous. I remember leaving and I was like, man, I didn't even say my name because when he sat there, first it's like, dang, that's Westbrook. But then it was like his intensity was like, oh, it was different. And so, what was dope about the season was, in the beginning we would dap each other up, right? Dap each other up when you leave. And then towards the end of the season, we asking each other how each other's family doing. You know what I mean? He's asking how my family doing. So I thought that was dope, like the consistency of being there, him seeing me. And so that was pretty dope. But yeah, that first encounter with him, man, was intense. I remember calling my wife. I was like, this brother's
on and off the court.
Man, on and off the court, like it's real. But then to get to I ain't gonna say I got to know him, but just getting to interact with him was pretty dope. So yeah, he's cool, man.
So let me ask you this because the spiritual part, we talked about this on the phone as an athlete, of course, me playing ball, like you live in a whole different world, vice versa, being in the church or being in that vicinity. You see a lot of stuff, on the road that you need as many prayers and pastors as possible because it's a whole different world. So a lot of these NBA players that you interact with, so with Westbrook, family man, kids, all that, why do you feel like he seems one of the more intense people, like when they, in your studies and stuff like that? What kind of interactions y'all have, like after you pray for them and stuff like that? What's some of the stuff he kind of gives you of like, what's his, mission, his walk?
Well, I just believe, I think everyone who actually comes in there is coming in there to hear a message, right? Coming in there to, hear a word because they travel like all the time, right? So, that 15 minutes here, that 15 minutes there is cool, but it's more of, I want to make sure I'm giving them something that they can literally take. So I hand out papers too. It's not like I'm just giving them a message. Like they getting a handout so they could take that home as well. But for me, I think they all come in there with that intensity to become better. Because at the end of the day, that's what we're doing. When we go to church, we want to become better, right? In every area of our life. So I think that's their reason for coming. That's their reason for being consistent. That's their reason for standing out, because not everybody comes in there, right? It's not a mandatory thing. So them showing up, them being different, them showing their flaws, them asking questions, them asking about, can you pray for this or can you pray for that? I think it's also a humility aspect of it that, they're able to be vulnerable in that situation where, they may not be able to be vulnerable and, definitely not on the court. Right. So that's an area they can, ask prayer for something and it's just in that room. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. It's definitely an earful about that. You know what I'm saying? Who's some of the other players you kind of have interacted with this season, or any funny stories that you have? I know the Westbrook thing was funny, but what other interactions you have with some of the other cats on the team?
Mason Plumlee, and then Josh Primo. Those are them Westbrook, Plumlee, and Josh were probably the three that I seen on a consistent basis. Who I really, again, it was my first year. I probably did 15 games, right? So, I got to maybe a little more than 15, but just interacting with them in those particular moments was pretty dope. Another funny story. Let's see. Well, the Pat Bev story is hilarious. So Pat Bev came. I forget, who does Pat Bev play for now?
He about to leave the Bucks, I think. He about to be off
the Bucks. They playing the Bucks. Yeah. Pat Bev come in while I'm teaching. I don't even know it's Pat Bev. He sat in the back, and I was talking about Solomon, and then all of a sudden in the back you hear this. Hey man, well tell everybody about what Solomon asked for what Solomon asked for, and I was like, and it threw me off because I was like, huh? And he seen my face expression, so then he started talking about when Solomon was 12, he asked God for wisdom, and I was like, yeah. So what he said actually ended up incorporating into my message. It was pretty dope. But it was funny because I'm like, man, he really liked that off the court, like he's vocal, you know what I mean? And so it was funny. So after the mess was over, everybody comes up and daps you up, and I went over to him, and he's so funny. He goes, yeah, my name is Pat. And I'm thinking to myself, I know who you are. But it was pretty cool. Dapped him up, and hopefully I get to see him again too. But loved his energy. Like he came in, and just the way he speaks, like he know the word too. So just him doing that, I thought was pretty dope.
Yeah, man. Russ and Pat are definitely one of a like, man. So that don't surprise me about them too. And then, of course, you see all the other cats, Y and PG, and them just throughout the games. It's more so just how you doing and kind of interacting with them.
Yeah.
Have any of them, even done more than just saying hi and bye, or they kind of just more so,
So for me, anytime I can get eye contact when I'm in the hall or walking down, the hallway. If I get eye contact, I'm saying hi. So anytime I've been able to see PG or Harden or who I haven't actually. Usually he's on the court. And I don't know why I can't think of his name.
Norman Powell, Amir Coffey. What's
the big three?
Zubac?
Kawhi usually on the court, so I haven't ran into Kawhi in the hallway. But Harden, PG, if I see him. I've gotten, fist bumps from PG, and then just the what's up from Harden. Because if I get eye contact, I'm saying hi. That way, it breaks the ice. Then you can say hi, and then the next time you see each other, you can say hi again. So, for the most part, that was probably all I got. But you just got to be intentional about connecting when you can.
Yeah, man. It's even when we at the games, like the three guys I'm really kind of real cool with, Norm, Y to an extent, and Amir, those three.
Okay.
Westbrook kind of be in his own little world, like, he warm up real early and stuff like that. He kind of keep his circle close, and then PG, he do the same thing. I hear it with here and there, but like you said, it's more so just about, having that eye contact, because you don't want to bother them too much because they're going to be like, exactly. They are in their own little world, man. So
exactly. As I walk by, I don't get no eye contact. I don't say nothing. But if I get some eye contact, what's up, man? How you doing? But you know, like you said, they be walking sometimes their head down or they be talking to somebody and they don't look around.
Yeah.
Like they don't like you. I don't know if it's a practice thing they do, but they don't be on the head with a swivel. And they're probably because of fans too. When they get out there, they know once they give eye contact to a fan, it's on. So you know, it's probably a lot to do with that. But if I get eye contact, man, yeah, I'm definitely speaking and fist bump, whatever it is, just to acknowledge them, not acknowledge me, but to acknowledge them.
Right. So shout out to Hope. She said, I didn't even know the NBA had chaplains. That's actually good though. We all need a lot of Jesus. Yes. You know what I mean? Like I told people, man, like this interview right here, I know many people might not see the face on the screen, but he is with the team. You know, I do see him, you know, every game, you know, day in, day out for the most part. So it's just because it's not the stars or it's not the actual players. Like this is a person that's very important to the organization. So, you know, that's why I want to, you know, bring this guy in first. But before we let people in, man, because I want to let people come in and talk to you and ask you questions. Kind of tell me a little bit outside of, you know, you have your nonprofit organization, of course, outside the Clippers. So tell me a little bit about that before I let people in.
Well, and just to go back to the Clippers before I go into that. So my biggest thing, man, is to build relationships, right? You know, I have a few people in my phone that I've got to interact with. And it's just about building a relationship with them. For me, I know, like I played sports too, but my identity was in football, right? So when football didn't go my way, I would quit because that's what my identity was in. And so I'm big on trying to help them find who they are, right? Because the sport is great. Like that's what you're gifted at. And it don't have to be sports, it can be anything. That's what you're gifted at, but that's not who you are. And so for me, it's really trying to build those relationships so that we can have those conversations of who you are outside of basketball, right? So when basketball is over, then you already got something that you can roll back into. And we all know in every sport, people retire and they don't know what they do because they're literally their identity was in the sport. So for me, it's about building those relationships to figure out what that is. What is your purpose outside the sport? So that's what I'm big on. As far as what I do, I am a youth pastor at Oasis Church here in LA. Come check us out. We on Normandy and Wilshire. But I also have a brand called Next to Get, where it's all about the process of you becoming better. Because if you become better, everything you do becomes better, and then you can be next to get your success. So every letter in the brand has a meaning. It's a curriculum. I started about 10 years ago. Start off as this T-shirts, next to get blessed, next to get fit, next to get greatness, next to get MVP. Sounds like you taking action. So I'm like, ooh, they about to sell. Nothing sold. And so, but I knew I had something. I knew God gave me something. So I just kept, figuring out, okay, God, what do I do? What do I do? And then it became a curriculum. It became camps. Then it became a curriculum. Then it's a mentorship. And then I really found my passion, which is youth, which is really men, young men and youth. Because I come from the gang life. I come from a broken home. I come from not having an identity. I come from, what I thought love was. So I come from all those different things. So I can relate. So I go to the juvenile detention centers and I get to speak and I get to interact with them. And that's really where my passion is. Getting them to get their mind right. Because if they get their mind right, then when they go back to their environment, they can be different. But if they just get out of, the juvenile hall and go back to their environment, they're going to be the same way. So it's about, making that impact in their life, sharing my story. I think that's the biggest thing I do is I share my story, depending on what it is and what I feel I should share. But I share my story, which then helps them share back with me. I remember my uncle, my uncles used to always ask me when I was younger, man, you okay? You okay? And I used to say, yeah, I'm good. But I wasn't okay. You know what I'm saying? Right. I was just okay because I feel like, why would I tell you what I'm going through? Because I don't know what you went through. So to me, I'm not going to, why would I give you some free information that you can't really help me?
I'm not giving you upper hand to get a
right. So I'm good. I'm good. And growing up in the 80s, man, you was told you can't cry. Certain things that I grew up with, I didn't see no vulnerable men. So for me, I felt like I had to be tough, right? So so me going in there sharing my story actually gets them to share back or just relate to me more or listen. Every time I've gone and I got to thank God for this because it ain't me, but every time I've gone, all the counselors like, man, I've never seen him this quiet. So to me, I'm like, that's God, and it's because of my story. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's everything I've been through, everything he brought me from, man. So it's a blessing to be able to use that as a testimony now to where you can be. Amen.
Right. Amen. Amen. That's big work, man. But I'm gonna go ahead and drop the link for people to come in here, man. And if y'all got questions in the chat, y'all can also come up as well. But mainly for the people who got the membership badges. Now, if you have not come up here and actually talked to anybody I've interviewed, you get one freebie. But for the most part, you got to have a membership badge to be able to talk to the guests for the most part. But if you guys want to ask a question in the chat, I can definitely read it in there and ask Pastor Williams for that. But so let me before people as they come in, man, let me say this about the Clippers. How do you feel about them dealing with Kawhi getting injured again and stuff like that? Like what from a basketball standpoint, do you feel like the Clippers in this position are in a tough spot with Kawhi and the injuries and stuff like that, with him getting injured for the playoffs again?
I mean, I think every team has to go through something like this, right? It's always a tough spot, especially when you have high hopes. Like, they have the talent, right? And so I think it is a tough situation, but it's a business. And at the end of the day, whether you want people to stay or whether you want people to go, it's a business. And I think the Clippers will make, their best business decision. But it's also about the process, man. I feel like people have these ups and downs and they feel like, man, why does things keep happening that are wrong? But that's part of the process. There's nobody that you will encounter that's never had issues. Like, that's something that's guaranteed is going to happen. We always going to have issues. So how can you mentally be prepared for that so that, if something does happen, then, as a team, you guys can push forward. And so I think that's probably, it's easier said than done, right? But if they can really catch that, they still got a squad, with or without them, they got a squad. And, I hope they put it together, man. I really do.
It's like, see, a lot of people in the comments, they talk about frustrating, saying it's like another year and stuff like that. Like, and I get it. And people kind of some people want to blow it up. You got half of Clipper Nation want to blow it up and say, that's it, we done, going to the new arena, stuff like that. You got the other half, like me, who's saying, like, next year will be different. We're going to have one healthy year. I mean, not every year is going to be continuously the same thing over and over. Like, that's the tough part. That's the tough thing about it, man. So I'm more keeping faith on it. But let me see. He said, my signal is garbage. I don't want to waste his time. I'm in Mrs. Hope staying country. No, it's all good, man. Let me let my first person in. Let me let my man, Mr. Mass, in. He is a Houston Rocket fan, but he's also an LA Clip. He's also a basketball fanatic too. So what's good, Mass? What you got, my brother?
Hey, what's up, BJ, man? Like always, man, salute and thanks for the allowing me to come on and ask this man a question. Hey, Pastor, man, love your story, man. Love your testimony. I think, no test, no testimony, right? And,
Exactly.
So I want to give God grace and, give him the glory, hearing a man share a story. We need more men like you to come out and just speak, because there's a lot of men out here, who can use your tutelage, your experiences. But I'm 41 years old and I'm a twin, and my name is Keith and my twin brother's name is Kevin, and he was murdered 19 years ago, April 26, 2005. And it took me a long time to deal and cope with that. And forgive was a key word for me and my family. I don't think without God's grace and God's mercy, I would have got through that. Sometimes as men, we're depressed and we don't know that we are depressed. How do you deal with coping, loss? I know loss comes in different shape, forms, and fashion. As you were growing up or through your trials and tribulations, how did you cope with that? If it was, just trying to navigate, through different circumstances, if you lost a loved one or a friend or anything. A lot of times us men, we have a hard time dealing with certain things, and you said it, you know, being vulnerable. I know for me, and I'll close it right here. You know, I can only be that way around my sister, my mom, and my brother. I can't be that way around, you know, my wife or other people. But I feel like with my mom, my sister, my brother, I feel comfortable to let that side out. To that, you say what?
Well, first of all, man, when I was younger, coping with loss was hard. So a month after I got married, my best friend was killed. And I felt like, you know, when he had called me an hour before he was killed, and I felt like I should go get him. And he was like, nah, don't come get me. I'm good. I'm going to go to sleep. And literally an hour later, I get a call that he was killed. So I didn't know how to handle that. I didn't know how to talk to my wife about it. She ain't from that life. You know, the homies want to go and retaliate. I know I can't do that. You know what I mean? But so I didn't know what to do. And instead of telling the truth, I made up a story like, unless we know exactly who did it, I can't do it. But that was a lie. Even if we knew exactly who did it, I still would have done it, right? But because I couldn't tell the truth, or I felt like I couldn't tell the truth, I ended up getting addicted to drugs. And, you know, I was on meth for like 3.5 years because I was holding something in that was bothering me, right? And so I had to, you know, catch the revelation of it wasn't my fault, first of all, because I was taking the blame. So that was one thing that was hard for me, because I felt like I should have picked him up, even though he didn't ask me to pick him up. I felt like I should have, and so that was hard. So then learning that was when I really started to learn, like, I got to communicate this stuff. You know, a lot of times when somebody we see a dude snap, right? We see somebody snap, and we be like, man, he tripping. Like, all they did was step on his shoe. It ain't really the shoe. It's everything he been holding into. So when you see him snap, it's all, we don't even know what it is. It could be years of stuff that he held on to. So he looked crazy, but he'd been holding on to something. So for me, I had to learn how to express what I was going through, even with my wife. Like, for me, that was the hardest thing. Like, I didn't grow up seeing that. So to me, that was hard. And then now the way I look at loss is different, because now if I look at that situation, even with my best friend being killed, I can forgive the dude because it really ain't him, right? A lot of times we adapt into our circumstances. I didn't shot at people too. Thank God I didn't kill nobody. But we adapt to our circumstances. So it's a spiritual thing too. Like, we want to fight against the flesh and the blood, but it's also a spiritual thing that people are going through. So I can forgive because I know it really wasn't him, right? Or really wasn't her, or whatever the situation is, right? Because it's not, they are, something is attacking them that makes them act that way, right? Or something they holding on to from the past that they can't get over is making them act that way. So for me, not that it don't hurt you, not that it don't make you feel bad, but I can forgive them because they got something going on. It's not necessarily them. And until they figure that out, they're going to be stuck like that for a while. So for me, forgiveness something else got them to be who they are. So I can't really, hold them to a standard that I can't hold myself to too, right? I've done a lot of stuff in the past. I wasn't a bad dude though. Like, my family in Oakland would be like, they couldn't believe I was doing the stuff I was doing out here because I didn't grow up like that. So it wasn't that I was a bad kid, but I was doing bad things because I had something attached to me. I was moving, I'm fighting against flesh and blood, but it's a spiritual thing too. So for me, I can forgive because I know it's a spiritual thing, and it allows me to forgive a lot easier, if that makes sense.
No, it makes total sense, man. And I think, the forgiveness aspect for me and my family, my siblings and my mom, that's what really got us through. Because once I learned to forgive the man who killed my brother, I felt a lot better. And, we share some of the similar mannerisms, because when you lose somebody, I was irritated. Nobody wanted to be around me. I was mad for no fucking reason. And you know what I'm saying? Well, not for no reason, but I was just irritated. And also too, like, there needs to be some self-awareness and some accountability,
Absolutely.
on our own part, right? And so once I had to come to the fruition that, hey, like, I have a problem here, and I have to deal with this emotion that I can't deal with. And so once I accepted that I had an issue and I was a little depressed, I got help, got counseling. Me and my family went to counseling. I used to go to like this twins like grieving thing where other twins would sit around and tell stories and things of that nature. And what's funny was, man, I felt so much better after talking about the situation and sharing stories and laughing. And it's helped me deal with that, much better, man. But I won't keep you long, man. I just want to come on and try to share my story, man. But you keep doing what you're doing. And I love your testimony, man. And listen, man, God is amazing.
Amazing.
Last point, man. Yeah, last point, man. I look back on my life where I used to be 20 years ago and how my mental state was. Mentally, I was jacked up, right? After this has happened to me. And I look at where I'm at now, as a 41-year-old man, and I can't stress this enough, man. Like, God didn't have to be this good to me and my family. And he's given us a peace of mind, understanding, and I'm happy, right, with just life.
Amen.
And
Amen.
I mean, there's no better feeling than that. And I know that, you put God first, he's going to make sure you're going to be okay, man. So keep doing what you're doing, man. Salute to you,
Amen.
BJ, man, for having this man on. This is an awesome interview, man. You guys have a blessed day.
Amen. You too.
And before I continue, Pastor Williams, make sure y'all go follow my man, Mr. Mass, the guy who was just speaking. Subscribe to his channel because he does have a YouTube channel. Time Out with Mr. Mass. Go and follow that man on his channel. Great basketball talk. Also, Pastor Williams, he also does cooking as well. Very good cook.
Come on.
So everyone in the chat, man, make sure y'all go follow my man, Time Out with Mr. Mass, man. Touching testimony by him. I didn't know half the stuff that he been through until just now. That's crazy. And that's why I wanted to bring you on, man, because it doesn't have to always be about just basketball. I know we have a basketball channel, basketball podcast, but a lot of people, men and women who are grieving, who just need ears. You bless a lot of people on here with their story and your testimony, and I think it's definitely well needed.
Amen. Amen. And one thing just to add to him, and this for everybody, not just for him, but one thing I started to realize is our feelings are real, right? When we feel hurt, they real, but they're not the truth. And then when we can really focus on what the truth is, then we can move past something. And I think it's important for us, when we talk about our mentality and being self-aware, most of the time when you are self-aware, then you're accountable for your choice, right? It doesn't, even when you write, like even when I'm right, I still can be like, man, I could have did something better though, right? So, not playing the blame game and just how can I be better? Because if we all can wrap around how we can be better, man, it changed the game for everybody.
Yes. Big respect to you, Pastor. But if anybody else wants to come in, I'm gonna actually give an exception. If you guys want to hit the link, since this is not presuming the basketball, and have a question for Mr. Pastor Williams, like I say, he's the LA Clippers chaplain of the team. If you guys want to at least get something off, y'all want to actually ask this man a question, or in the chat, feel free to do. I'm gonna open up for another 5 minutes, and because what Mass just shared was pretty heavy. So I'm gonna go ahead and just open that up for y'all, man. But also, you also said growing up in Oakland, Pastor Williams, what's the difference between Northern and Southern California to you? The biggest difference?
Oh, slower. Up north is like country. And back then, I don't know about now because I've been out here since 91. But back then, everybody said blood. Blood was like saying brother. You know what I mean? So it wasn't like the gang life back. I know they got gangs now, but back then it was more if you wasn't in the drugs and all that, then you really didn't have no issues. But it's country, man. Like it's country. it's a lot slower. They like you go to a club out there, you feel like they should have, and I'm talking about then, I don't know about now, but you feel like they should have hay on the floor. Like it's just country like that. Like it's but it's cool. It's family oriented. It was more city based. Like Oakland didn't get along with San Francisco, and Berkeley didn't get along with Richmond. Like it was more city oriented in that way. I ain't been out there. I mean, I've been out there, but I ain't lived out there in a long time to know how it is now. But it was definitely slower. Out here was, first of all, about what colors you wear, which was threw me way off, right? And then I went to Fairfax, and when you say a word that has become normal to you, I was saying blood all the time, but so I couldn't say it at Fairfax though. I remember being on the bus one time, man, going to school, and these dudes was pressing me, like they was pressing me, and I didn't want to talk because I didn't want blood to come out my mouth. They just own me. I'm like, man, I ain't from nowhere. I ain't from nowhere. And I'm like, man, I'm from Oakland, and And finally, man, I said something. I said, man, I'm by myself. And they literally was like, oh, you from by yourself? And I was like, what? So apparently it was a gang called By Yourself, man. As soon as the bus stop came, I jumped off. I must have cut school for like a month because I was just like, I can't do it. And that's when I ended up connecting with some of my old friends that I grew up with. Went to my old street that I grew up on, and they were still over there. So that's kind of, how I ended up going back to school, because ended up some of them being at the school too. So, but yeah, man, it was different. The pace, I would say the pace though is the biggest thing.
Man, I grew up in San Diego, which is, LA, San Diego is kind of intertwined.
Yeah.
And like, the whole color thing, like the whole blood crip thing, like my area was more blood neighborhood. I wasn't in none of that stuff. I played basketball. I was none in the streets. My parents kept me away from that. But I always thought to myself, why is it that we separate ourselves by colors? Like, it's the weirdest thing that you can't go to this area because of a color you wearing. And and I'm like, dang, that's how they really thought back then. Like, it's not as deep it is, as now. They don't really go by colors no more. But I always felt that was just weird. Like, you can't go into a certain section because of the color that you wear. I don't know how you felt about that.
It was weird. I mean, I think it's not as bad now, depending where you are. But yeah, it was a trip. it wasn't no joke, man. It wasn't no joke,
man. But let me before I finish it off, man. Do you have like a powerful scripture that you would like to kind of share, like one of your or a couple of scriptures? You send me so many throughout the day. I thought you would probably be good to send anybody in the chat, man. What's your
Romans 2:12, man. Be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. And I feel like that's an everyday process, right? Because we've already come conformed to the world. Like we born into it, how we're raised, our circumstances. So we conform automatically. The transforming now is how we have to, what are we doing on a daily basis to get our mind right? What are we doing on the daily basis to change? So, the first N in next to get stands for next. And how do you figure out your next move? Well, you got to find the positive. But you can't find the positive if only negative stuff is in you. So if only negative stuff is in you, because that's all you listen to, that's all you talk about, that's what you do, because that's all we see on social media, then when it's going to be hard for you to find your next move, because you're going to be stuck in the negative. So we got to put positive things in us. We got to transform our thinking from what we came from to where we want to go. So to me, that scripture is, and then it's to that acceptable and perfect will of God, right? So there's stages in that, right? There's good, acceptable, and perfect. So there's stages of our growth. And if we don't, do this on a regular basis, we don't really grow. And I'm not talking about growing in age, because I'm 51. I'm talking about growing spiritually. Because when you grow spiritually, you grow mentally, right? Our mental is on our spiritual. So our emotions and will is going to go off our flesh, off our spirit man. So as our spirit man grows, we make better decisions. So your spirit man is how you renew your mind. What are you putting in you, and how are you changing how you act? It's an everyday walk. Like literally, I mess up all the time, but I don't hold a grudge on if I mess up. God give me grace every day, so I got to give myself that same grace.
Right. Oh, we got a couple questions in the chat.
Let's go.
One from Bruce. Bruce said, "Mr. Williams, should a person avoid cursing profanity as much as possible?"
I think when you get convicted, so for example, I grew up saying the N-word, I grew up cussing, but as I started to realize, man, I can't talk like that no more, because I was getting convicted for it. So for me, yeah, it became I can't do that, because if I do that, then I'm trying to mentor a kid, but then he sees me cuss. So I got to be a reflection of what I'm trying to make him be a reflection of. Right. And I'm not saying he can't cuss, but he can't see me cuss. He can't see me act a certain way, but I'm in the juvenile system trying to tell them to get right. So for me, yeah, cussing is not part of my language no more. And I do believe you got to be able to control your tongue. If you can't control your tongue, like if you get mad and say a cuss word, then the cuss word was already in you. It wasn't that somebody made you do it. It was already in you. So if you can control your tongue, and I'm not saying, I'm not saying what you should and shouldn't do, but you should be able to control your tongue. So if somebody makes you mad and makes you act up, no, you act it up because that's already in you. So you need to start putting some stuff in you so you don't act that way, right? Because can't nobody make you act a certain way. People can make you mad, but your reaction is your reaction. Right.
So,
yeah.
I got a question for you. After one person right here, Deuce Times, he's from actually LA too. He said, who is your favorite LA Clipper of all time?
Ha! Oh man, because I didn't grow up a Clipper fan, so that's a tough one. I'm not gonna, I didn't grow up a Clipper fan. That's a good question, man. I'd probably say Lamar Odom.
Lamar Odom,
my favorite.
Really? That's an interesting one. Big smooth, lefty smooth. Yeah, but I got a question for you. So you growing up in a lifestyle about, completely congruent to different from what you are in right now. Have you ever felt like going into the church, you felt like you didn't want to be a part of it because you felt like you were going to be judged, and you felt like, that you weren't going to be able to fit in? Like, did you have to get over that hurdle, get over that hump to really of be accepted?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think I was going to church for the wrong reasons. I was going to church, well, I think you start off going to church for the right reasons because things ain't going right in your life, and you go into church, and then God starts to really do things in your life, but then you don't realize the process. And so we don't realize that renewing of our mind. We don't realize that we only come to church on Sunday, but Monday through Saturday, I'm doing my own thing. So then when I start doing certain things that I know ain't right, I stop going to church because I feel like I'm getting judged, even though ain't nobody judging me because they don't even know what I'm really doing. But it's more of of how I feel. I can't be going to church because I just did this yesterday, or if I just did this the week before. So we start, convicting ourselves of not going to church. So, if I was doing good, I was in church. But once I would fall off and start doing something else, whatever it might be, then I would fall off because I felt I couldn't be close. It wasn't that God wasn't there. I just felt like I couldn't be close. So I think when you start going to church for the right reasons, and don't get offended with people. I think too, we go to church and we don't realize it's regular people that go to church. They try to grow too. A lot of times people leave church and get offended, like, they growing too. So they might have said something that wasn't right, but you can't hold that against them because we say things that ain't right too. So that church hurt that offense. We got to make sure we're in tune with our spirit man. Like, that's a daily process. If you just going to church on Sundays, you're not really doing yourself a good justice of growing. It might be a fire message, but if you're not doing something Monday through Saturday, it's going to be easy to fall. Like, your foundation ain't going to be that strong, if that makes sense.
Right. Oh, the questions are flying in now. Miss Jasmine Robinson, she said, was you a Laker fan?
I was. She already knew.
She already knew.
Magic Johnson, my best friend's mom was a Boston Celtics fan. So at the age of like 8, I'm living out here still. So I grew up with the Magic era and all that. And I used to go at it with her. And she did not, even though she was my homie's mom, she gave us the blues because it was just Boston and LA at the time, all the time. So yeah, I grew up watching them. So yeah, it was.
Right. I already knew how it was in the 80s. That was Showtime era.
Oh, come on, man. It was fire.
Big fan Breezy said, Mr. Williams, can you speak how therapeutic basketball can be, helping you mentally? In other words, is this true for you? And he asked if I could answer the question as well. I'm gonna let you take on that first.
I do believe, I think any sport can be therapeutic. The problem I think people have is when they put their identity in the sport, right? Because I feel mentally, all the workouts you got to do, all the training you got to do, that's mental. Getting up early in the morning, shooting 100 to 300 shots a day, like that builds your mentality. That's fire. But then the other part is when you put your identity in the sport, now if you don't have a good game, you fall off because now your identity's in the sport. So let me give an example. Everybody remember Tiger Woods, right? Tiger Woods was winning every PGA tour that could be won at one point. Like it was hard for him to lose. Then he has a situation that happens with him and his wife, and all of a sudden he can't win a game no more, right? That's because your identity becomes in the sport. So now when he it went to his knee, it went to this, he was doing all this other stuff. But in reality, if you get him on the court, or not on the court, but on the green with no media around, he probably hit everything. But when you're on the big stage and you got cameras, and now it's the mental part of, man, am I gonna win this one? Am I gonna, you start overthinking, and so now you can't play right because your identity became in the sport. Now I'm gonna use somebody else. Everybody remember when Kobe went through his thing with the whole the rape thing.
Rape charge. Yep. Denver, rape charge. Yep. Rape charge.
Hey, when Kobe went through that, I'm like, oh, he's not gonna have a good season. Anybody know Kobe balled out that year? Should have got MVP, but they're not gonna give somebody who's going through something MVP.
Yep. Talk about
it. But he did that because his identity wasn't in basketball. That's what he good at. But he knew who he was. So since he knew who he was, he knew he wasn't guilty. Whatever the case may be, this brother balled. I was like, how do you do that? Because you can't see nobody. I have yet to see anybody else in the sport do what Kobe did when they can't even talk about him no more because he wasn't giving them nothing to talk about. He balling in every game. So it was like, the media wanted to tear him down, but they couldn't really tear him down because he wasn't giving them no ammo to tear. So I think that's where you gotta make sure your identity is not in the sport. Who are you? And then the sport is, your ability, your talent. It definitely helps you mentally as far as pushing through, waking up early. Like nobody wants to wake up early. Nobody wants to shoot 1,000 shots. But that's becomes a habit because that's what you trained yourself to do. But who are you is not the basketball player. That's not who you are. And I think that's the one thing in sports that we got to get, especially the young men that come in, they got to know who they are, not what they are. They are a basketball player. They are a football player. They are a baseball player, but that's not who you are. Those are two different things. So if they get that right, man, they can be great in every area of their life.
Man, and some of the stuff I'm going to piggyback off because he was asking me about, basketball for me was my first love. That was before any, girl I got with. That was before, any type of thing I love with. That was my love, basketball. That was the thing I slept with every night. That's what I did, time and time again. So that's something that got me through hard times. That got me through depressing times. That got me through times I didn't want to be around nobody. I'm gonna go straight to the court and just be out there for like 4 or 5 hours straight where I'm by myself.
Right.
People thought like that's just being with the hoop and the ball. That's enough for me to have take my mind off everything. So I just think what you said too, it's already inside of you. That's kind of what, that's what you have to, piggyback and go off of.
Amen.
But see if we got, I'm going to take 1 or 2 more questions. And then I know Mr. Williams got to go. He's a busy man. Y'all harassing this man.
Hey, man, I love it.
Mr. Williams, can you speak on why the Clippers lost in the first round?
I don't know. I mean, I'm not in the inside to know they got beat. Put it this way, I say this. I think when this is what I will say. I think there are players on the Clippers who put too much pressure on themselves. And when you put too much pressure on yourself, you don't actually perform the way you could have performed. So I think that is probably why they might not have gotten out the first round. It's already enough pressure. So when you add the pressure on your own self, you end up not having a great game or not having good games. And then if you have bad games, now you put more pressure on yourself. So I think the pressure that they put on themselves is what, is probably one of the reasons. I ain't gonna say the reason, but one of the reasons why they lost. That's a lot of pressure, man. You want to get, you want to get there, and they got some dogs on that team, but you can't take that added pressure of, I got to make this one, or I got to make this one, or I got to do this now, because once you start overthinking in your head, you're not playing no more. You're not playing for fun no more. You just, it almost becomes like you're almost frustrating yourself because you're trying to do something instead of just allowing it to happen. Right? They've been playing the game for so long. If they just allow it to happen, they'll get what they want. But when you got that pressure on you and you're trying to do it too much, you end up, not hitting the shots you want to hit or you would normally hit. And, that pressure is real. And that's the mental part. Like, you got to know I can't put all that on me.
Right.
Man, so that's just my opinion.
Bruce said Mr. Williams prayed for Kawhi. Because yeah, with the injuries, man, it's guys all, pray for all of us, please.
Absolutely.
Please pray for all of us. But I think we're a little bit overboard, but I wasn't expecting all the love in the chat, man. Definitely appreciate y'all coming through. But Mr. Williams, please let them know where they can find you at on Instagram, or what I'm saying.
Instagram is next to get.greatness. Facebook is just next to get with the number 2. TikTok is next to get. YouTube is next to get. I think Twitter or X is into G dot next to get. And that's all I got. So, but if you just type in next to get, they should all come up.
Next to get.
Can I break down what next to get is? Or what it means?
Go ahead, man. I'm put you on the big screen. Go ahead.
All right. So the N in next to get stands for next. You got to find, you can't figure out your next move unless you find the positive. E is for empower. You got to believe in yourself, right? I love support, but if you don't believe in yourself, it don't matter. The X is X factor and that's our mind. X factor is our mind. My favorite quote is, the biggest obstacle you will ever have to overcome is your mind. And if you can overcome that, you can overcome anything. T is for transformation. As you start to figure out your next move, as you start to empower yourself, as you start to use that X factor, you start to transform, right? You start to have create a routine. You start to have some discipline. The number 2 is you plus action equals 2. You can't gain, you cannot obtain, you can't get anything without action. G is for growth. E is for earn. You got to want to put in the work. Social media is great, but a lot of people just want to get it fast. They don't want to put in the work to get their character right? And that's what I'm talking about. Character, like that's where it gets you in the different room. Character gets you the authorization to do certain things. It's your character. And then T is for thrive. As you start to realize, man, life is a journey. There's going to be ups and downs, but I've already pushed through. So I know I can push through and be next to get the things that I want. And so that's the meaning of next to get. So I want everybody to be next to get their success. Amen.
Amen. We're going to end with that, man. Appreciate you coming on, Pastor Williams.
Amen.
I definitely appreciate, I'm looking forward to all the scripts you're sending me every single morning. Definitely appreciate that, man. But that concludes this show, man. We're going to go and let Mr. Williams go. But we'll be back on tomorrow with another great show for y'all today. So we respectfully say, pull up a seat, pull up a chair, pull up. Peace. Out of here like swimwear. like that. Woo!